Hi there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sarah with Jujube Crafts and more. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's crafts are based on nativity scenes, and so I have 3 to share with you, and I hope you enjoy them. Let's get started with the first DIY. To get started, we're going to use these little houses. They came out, I think, in the spring and summer time, and they're just the simple little houses. They came in 2 different styles that I found at my Dollar Tree. I'm not sure if they were in, well, I think there might have been 3 styles, but I'm not positive. Anyhow, so I have 2 styles. I have like a medium-sized one that's a little wider, and then a tall one which is narrower. So I'm using 2 of the medium-sized wider ones and 1 narrow one. And here I'm just using my box knife to run along the edge of this little house where the frame and the back of the house meet. And then I'm just gonna push that out with my hands, and it should pop right out. And because we scored that with our blade, there's not a whole lot of paper tearing off and being left on the back there. Next, I'm just going to take off that top layer of decorative paper that was already on these little houses. It's kind of a plasticky coated paper. So when you take that off, there still is a layer of paper and glue left, and so I'm just taking this little spray bottle. I bought this cute little bottle at the Dollar Tree. It's like purple polka dots, and it just has water in it. And then I let that set for about a minute or so. And then I'm going to go back with my scraper here, and I'm just going to scrape that paper right off, and it pretty much takes everything off. I'm just using a baby wipe to get that extra glue off, but it works really super good. I like it a lot better than sanding it off. Next, I'm going to take these jumbo popsicle sticks. These are the ones that came from Walmart, and I'm just going to lay them out over the top of my house to see how many I need. Next, I'm going to take my favorite way of coloring wood these days is the burnt umber apple barrel acrylic paint and a little bit of black, and then mixing that with water to make a wash for the wood. So you're painting it on, but it's a really light layer of paint so the wood grain shows through. And I really like the way that this looks and turns out. And then when those are all done, I wanted to add a little bit thicker layer of paint onto the actual frame of the house, just because it's got a coating on the very outside and I wanted it to cover more. So I'm just putting in more of that burnt umber and a little dollop of black in there, and I'm just going to mix it. So it'll be a little more watery because there's a little bit of water, the watered paint in there from before, but it's a lot thicker, so it covers really nicely in one coat. Then we're going to start on the back of our houses, and basically we're going to glue our popsicle sticks right onto that board, and I guess, I don't know what it is, like compressed cardboard or whatever it is. We're just going to use a little bit of wood glue, and then I'm going to add some hot glue too so that it holds quickly with the hot glue, but the wood glue will keep it on there for long term. So I'm just going to line that right up with the bottom of that little house piece, and then I'm just going to keep going all the way up. I was inspired by Jamie at the Crafty Guy DIY. I think that's his channel. I'll link it down below. But he had done a nativity scene using these little houses last year, and I really loved it, but I wanted to put my own little spin on it, so this was my creation for that same idea. Now I'm just going to put a heavy book on the top of it and let it sit for a while so that it dries flat. After it's completely dry, I'm going to take my box knife again. I really love this box knife. I bought it at Walmart for like, I don't know, maybe $5 or something, but it really works nicely. So I'm just going to go over the edge there where those popsicle sticks are, or those craft sticks, and I'm just going to score them a few times with that blade. And then eventually you can just kind of break them off, and they break off really nicely, like cleanly and nicely. But if it doesn't snap off right away, then you probably just need to go back and score it 1 or 2 times. Otherwise you might split the wood. So just go back and score it a couple more times to make sure that it's right to where it needs to be so that it can be snapped off. And see, that leaves such a nice clean edge. So then I'm going to go to the top there and just kind of come down the top of the house. Same way. And then I'll catch that little tiny piece that's on the side there too. And you can see maybe at the top there's like a little piece that broke off, but I'm not worried about that because the frame is going to go back on top of these and it won't show in the long run. But even if it did, you could just touch it up with a little paint. Not a big deal. Because if they look rustic, it's supposed to be a manger, so if it looks rustic, that's totally fine too, I think, because the manger that Jesus was born in was nothing fancy. So then I'm going to take my hot glue, and you could use wood glue on this as well if you'd like, but I'm just going to use hot glue for this for today. And I'm just going to reattach that frame to the back piece right on top of those craft sticks. And really you want to make sure that that bottom edge is nice and flat so that when they're standing up they don't tip or lean. So just really make sure that that bottom edge is nice and flush. Then I decided that I wanted to make little shingles for my house. So I'm taking those same craft sticks and I'm going to use 2 of them, and I'm just cutting them in various sizes, and I'm just going to shingle my house. So I think I did like 3 layers of shingles. I thought it looked pretty good, but I made them so that they overlapped the front of the houses and then just off the side. And I'm just hot gluing those on. And I'll do that to both sides of all 3 houses. And there's what it looks like when it's all done. I think they turned out really good. I like the rusticness of them. So then I'm going to go in with a little bit more of that watered down paint that I used before, and I'm just going to touch up all the edges from the craft sticks that I cut or that weren't covered from painting before. So it all looks nice and cohesive. Now I'm going to take some of the Spanish moss that I bought from the Dollar Tree. I didn't have any hay lying around, and I was going to use the reindeer moss, which is really green, but in Bethlehem I don't know that they had green grass really, and I don't think they probably would have had it in a manger. So I saw this Spanish moss in my stash and I was like, oh, that's perfect, I'll use that. It kind of looks like hay. And And I think it turned out really good. I love how it looks in these little houses. So if you don't have hay or straw, just get some Spanish moss. It looks really good. You could probably use some raffia too if you wanted, but I didn't have that either. So I'm just putting down some hot glue, just putting a good amount there at the bottom, and then I'm just going to push the Spanish moss right in, and then I'm just going to kind of pull out whatever doesn't stick to the bottom. I don't want a really thick layer because I want my figurines to be able to stand inside the little house. So if it's too thick or too bulky, then they won't stand easily. And actually I end up gluing mine down in the end anyways, so I'll just fill in little spaces where it's empty or needs some filling, and then I'll just trim off the edge, shake it out a little bit, and it's perfect. I found this little star in my stash. I have no idea where it came from. I think I've had it for a bazillion years. But I'm just going to put some of that brown paint over the top, and then I added some gold paint with a dry paintbrush right over the top. So it's got a little gold shimmer. And then I'm just going to glue that to the middle taller house. That's the house where baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph will be. And here I'm just showing you my little peg people that I painted. I started painting these like literally probably 7 years ago. Like, it's been one of those projects I've been meaning to do for years and years and years. And I finally decided to get around to it. So I finished painting them up. I think I had Mary and Joseph done, like I said, like 7 years ago. And so I just finished up the rest of them. So I've got the 3 wise men, an angel, a shepherd boy, Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, and 2 sheep. And here's a look at the finished product. I really just love how rustic and cute this turned out. I think that these are just too adorable. I cannot wait to put them out with my nativity scene this year. I love nativities. I have quite a few, and I am so happy to get to add to my nativities with this one. What do you guys think of this? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, for DIY number 2. We're going to take this perpetual calendar. I found this over in like I don't know, they kind of have like a section where they've got a lot of teen girl stuff together. And so I found that there. And it comes with these 3 little hooks on it for the calendar, but I took those off, and then I took the back string off. And then I'm going to rip that paper off the same as I did on those little houses from before and spray it with water. And then once again, I'm just going to take my scraper and I'm just going to scrape all of that glue and paper right off. It comes off in like one felt swoop. And then I just wipe it down with a baby wipe, and it's perfect. I don't have to sand it or anything. So for this design, I wanted to do some ornaments and like a saying on the actual board itself. So I went into my Cricut design space and I found some elements that would work well for this project that I'm doing. I will let you know in the description box down below which cartridge or which collection this came from, because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a really neat project. I really liked how this one turned out. So I'm just showing you how I'm weeding it all and preparing the vinyl to go onto the sign and onto the ornaments. And these actually had a lot of little tiny elements to the skirt of the angels and the wings of the angels and stuff, and so it actually took me a really long time to get this all weeded out. And I tried using that roller to get some of the smaller pieces off, and it worked, but it also kind of left some spots with vinyl on it. So if you decide to try that, be very careful, because you might actually accidentally put vinyl where you don't want it, little tiny pieces. So I originally painted my board white, and I didn't show you that because I ended up going over it with this paper. And I picked up this paper pad from Michael's, and I will again link the name of it in the description box down below. or not link it, but I'll put the description, or put what it's called in the description box down below. Hello, I got it, I do. So I picked out that paper. I thought it was really like ethereal and beautiful, and it just looked like the heavens. I don't know, I thought it was really pretty. So I decided to use that for this project. And yeah, it's not typical Christmas, but I think it actually works really good, and it'll be fun hanging with my other nativity pieces that I have. So I lost footage. Sorry, but I did. So basically what I did after the glue was dry, I went around and I sanded the edges to get it the right size, and then I took a pokey tool and I poked the little holes where those little hooks go, and then I put the hooks back in, and then I added my vinyl just using a regular transfer tape. I think it was Cricut transfer tape, and then I added a hanger to the back. Then I glittered up some ornaments. I just chose a couple colors from the paper pad. I chose a pink, like an iridescent white, and this blue. And the blue doesn't match perfectly, but it goes well enough. I think that it's okay. So we've got the wise men represented there with one guy. The other two were at a meeting, I think. Then we got Joseph and, or no, we've got a shepherd and a little sheep in that third one there. And then in the middle, of course, Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus. And I really love how this turned out. I think it's just really pretty and definitely unexpected, I think. So let me know what you think of this one as well. Would you add bows to the top of the ornaments or just leave them? So now for our last and final DIY, I am taking this little plaque that I made for my daughter. She just turned 7. And so this was a plaque that I'd made for her nursery, and when we moved, we didn't end up doing the same thing. So I had planned to change it, but when I went to go remove the letters off the front there, they are stuck down. I have no idea what glue I used, but whatever glue I used was really good. So I'm just going to use the back of the sign. I filled the holes with some spackle, gave it a light sanding, and now I'm going to put 2 coats of the apple barrel white paint on there. And I'm just checking that was some spare wood I had in my stash to see if it would work for a frame, and it was perfect. I think it might be like a 1x1 or something. It's really just kind of a square piece of maybe molding or something. I have no idea what it is, but I just bought it at the hardware store because I thought it was a good shape for frames. So here I am weeding this next project here. And I've always seen these, on Pinterest and in stores and things like that. And I've always been like, oh man, I really want one of those. So I thought, what better time than now to make one? So that is what I'm doing. So you'll see in a second, once I get everything weeded and ready to put down what exactly we're making here. And when you have like scripty letters with flourishes or smaller pieces on your font, just take your time with removing your vinyl. It can get really kind of tedious trying to get those little tiny spots out, but if you take your time, it'll work just fine and it'll be beautiful. So here I'm showing you those sticks after I got them painted and cut down to the right size. So here we are back with our vinyl. And basically I'm just cutting a piece of this Cricut transfer tape so that it matches the size of my biggest decal. And then I'll just use that same transfer tape for each element that I'm going to add onto my board here. So I just wanted to make sure I got the middle, so I measured that real quick to make sure that the manger was in the middle. And then it's always like more difficult the first transfer, just because the transfer tape is a little more sticky. But I use that same transfer tape to do this part here. And then I use the same one for this. This is a donkey, sheep, and a shepherd. And then the saying says, "True love was born in a stable." I like that saying a lot. And then I just add an angel at the top. And I actually cut that middle piece in half to get the words on there. And then I'm just taking like some sandpaper, and I'm just roughing it up a little bit, because when I transferred that first one, the paint lifted up a little bit inside the manger, so I wanted it to look like it was meant to be. So I just went through and did a little sanding to make it all match. Next, I'm going to add my frame. So I cut my top and bottom piece to be exactly the same width as my sign. And I'm just going to take some wood glue for that long-term hold, and then I'll use some hot glue for the short term so that I can keep working with my project while it is all drying. So you can choose to use the hot glue or just use wood glue and clamps. It's up to you. And my glue gun wasn't quite hot enough yet, so I kind of had to wait for it for a minute. But now it's working just fine. Oh, the joys of crafting, right? There's always a hiccup somewhere. And yeah, if you're one of those people that hates like looking at a messy desk, I'm sorry, but that's how I craft. So just forewarning that my desk will probably always look like a mess while I'm videoing a tutorial or crafting, just because that's how I craft. So I do clean up my space when I'm all done, and it looks nice a lot of the time, but when I'm in the middle of crafting, I just lay stuff and just keep going. So here is how it turned out. I am in love with this. Like I said, I've wanted one of these for so long, and this one is 18 inches wide by I think it was like 7 or 8 inches tall, so it's pretty good size. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend some time with me. I really do appreciate it so very much. I hope you'll stick around and subscribe to my channel to get to see what I'm up to in the future. And I hope to see you all again soon. Have a safe, happy, and blessed day. Talk to you later. Bye.